Hi, in this video I'll demonstrate how to wire your CBI timer switch to your DB board. This timer switch is compatible with both the DIN rail as well as the SAMite rail. In this video I'll be showing it on the DIN rail. Now the CBI timer switches do have this plastic cover. The reason for that plastic cover is if you were using it on a SAMite rail, it would match the size of the circuit breakers nearby. If you're using it on the DIN rail, I suggest you take this off. To take it off, you just put your screwdriver in there and peel it off. I've inserted my screwdriver in there and I've lifted it and I can unclip it now. Now, just inspecting the wiring connections, at the top I have an L for live and then the N for neutral. At the bottom I have an L for the load. So all I need to do is connect the live wire here. A neutral is required to energize the timer, to give it electricity, to give it power to actually work. And then the live exits over here. The timer is really just a controlled relay. Right, now before I work on the DB board, I've got to make sure everything is off. I drop the main switch and I just confirm that there's no power feeding this DB board. It is currently off. Now in your case you may not be able to switch off the upstream supply. You will still be able to do this wiring as long as this is down and you don't touch the wires that are feeding into the DB board. Right, to install the timer I just need to put it over there and push it down. If yours does not lock into place, just check that your little plastic slider is pushed down. Now in my setup I have a lighting circuit over here and I would like to control the light with this timer. That means I want this circuit over here, which is my 10 amp circuit breaker, feeding this lighting circuit to now be controlled with this timer, which means that the timer will be able to control when the light goes on or off. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew this circuit over here and I've now removed the live wire from that circuit breaker. This is recorded in the lab and we use flexible stranded wire. Your wire will probably be solid core and it'll look more like that. What I need to do is I now need to connect the load wire to the output of this timer. So that means I just need to unscrew the load terminal over there and feed my lighting circuit, the load lighting circuit, into my load terminal of my timer. So this wire here is going to my light. Now what I need to do is still connect from the output of this circuit breaker, which was feeding my light, and I need to loop it round to the input of the timer. Now the thickness of the cable is very important. In this case, this timer can handle 20 amps, but my circuit breaker over here is limited to 10 amps. That means I can use a looping cable here of 1.5 millimeter. However, if I wanted to use this timer for a bigger load, such as a Geyser, I would need to connect the timer to a 20 amp circuit breaker and use at least a 2.5 millimeter cable for my loop round. Please keep in mind that if your circuit is inductive or it is LED or CFL lights, you'll need to derate the maximum rating of the timer. In fact, the timer actually specifies that if the load is resistive, you've got up to 21 amps capacity, but if it is an inductive load, you only have 10 amps. Right, now this used to go to the light, but now I've moved the light circuit to the load of the timer. So I need to give the timer the live supply. So over here from my circuit breaker, I'm now looping it round. I'm now looping it round to the input here at the live terminal. I've exposed about 10 millimeters of the conductor. Right, now the timer also needs a neutral connection to work. The neutral here is just to provide a little bit of current so that the timer circuit can get energized. The neutral here has nothing to do with the neutral that is going to your load. Right, so I've now gone from the output of the circuit breaker to the input of the timer. The output of the timer is now going to my load. Now, keeping in mind that my load circuit had its own neutral, and there it is. So I've not changed anything to do with the neutral wire of my load circuit. I merely just moved the live from there to there and looped the incoming live to the top of the timer. Now the timer does require energy to work, which means it needs a neutral connection over there. This neutral connection here has nothing to do with my load neutral. It's simply a connection to provide the timer with energy because it has got a little circuit inside. Right, my timer needed a neutral connection, so I've connected it to the neutral bus bar over here. Now, if your DB board has a split neutral bus bar like this, where some of the loads are protected by earth leakage and some are not, then I suggest you connect the neutral to the same neutral bus bar that your load was connected to. So in this case, I'm using this neutral bus bar. In your setup, you may find you only have one neutral bus bar and then all the neutrals are connected to the same place. Now I can energize my DB board. Right, so I'm lifting the main switch and I'm just going to demonstrate the timer in operation. I'm just going to bypass it to allow me to manually override and just switch it on. Notice that my light has now energized. If I switch it off, notice how the timer is now controlling the light. And yes, when the timer is on, I can always disconnect it using that circuit breaker. And thanks for watching, and cheers.